The greatest unresolved mysteries of the world can almost sound like blockbuster movie plots. Secret treasure hunts, museum heists, and giant magnets in space that are just a few unresolved cases that give us goosebumps. If you're looking for weird incidents that don't make sense to keep you up at night, look no further. From internet sleuths to history buffs, these head-scratching unsolved mysteries have left many frustrated, still searching for answers even centuries later. If you like true stories of the macabre, strange, and paranormal, then please click on that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you can be notified every time a new episode of Grim Events is uploaded. Without further ado, I give you 8 eerie unsolved mysteries. Number 1. The Hinterkaifeck Farm Murders. On March 31st, 1922, 6 people were murdered at the Hinterkaifeck Bavarian homestead in Germany. This included 5 members of the Gruber family: Andreas, his wife Kazilia, their widowed daughter Victoria, and her 2 children, Kazilia and Josef, as well as their maid Maria Baumgartner. A week earlier, Andreas had noticed footprints leading towards the farm from the woods, but there was no returning prints. Prior to this, Andreas had been complaining to friends and neighbors for months about hearing creaking and footsteps in the attic, as well as finding newspapers in his home that he hadn't purchased. He also revealed that the keys to his tool shed had gone missing, which happened to be the place his pickaxe, which eventually became the murder weapon, was stored. Months prior to the slaying, the Gruber's previous maid had quit, claiming that the house was haunted by ghosts after hearing mysterious voices and footsteps. Not until April 4th, after young Kazilia was absent from school and the mailman reported mail was piling up, were the police told to check on the Hinterkaifeck farm. Investigators interviewed over 100 suspects, some as recently as 1986, and eventually came to the conclusion that the culprit was likely living in their house for at least 6 months prior to the killing. There was never enough conclusive evidence to close the case, so almost a century later it remains unsolved. Perhaps even more unsettling is the fact that the livestock were still being fed, and neighbors saw smoke coming from the chimney between March 31st and April 4th, indicating that the culprit remained in the house for a few days after he killed the family. Now, I actually have a full video dedicated to the Hinterkaifeck Farm Murders. I'll go ahead and add the link below and maybe one up here too. Number 2. Bobby Dunbar was supposedly kidnapped, then found, but the boy who returned wasn't actually Bobby. In the summer heat of August 23, 1912, the Dunbar family decided to cool off with a vacation to the Swayze Lake in Louisiana. More swamp than lake, Swayze was full of alligators. At some point in the night when the family was asleep in their tents, Bobby Dunbar, the family's 4-year-old son, wandered off and disappeared, launching an 8-month-long search for the child. A Louisiana newspaper from the time, the Caldwell Watchman, covered the search. When Bobby was missed, a search traced for the banks of the Lake Swayze. At first, it was feared that he had drowned, but the lake failed to give up Bobby, and the little boy's hat was found some distance from the lake a day or so later. With hope of finding Bobby waning, the town continued to search for the boy, offering cash rewards equivalent to $125,000 in today's time. On April 13, 1913, police finally thought they found little Bobby Dunbar alive, traveling with a drifter named William Cantwell Walters in Mississippi. The only problem? The Dunbars didn't recognize him. Regardless of the less than ideal reaction from the family, police matched up identifying markers like birthmarks to prove that the boy was Bobby. The town celebrated the arrival of the missing boy despite the Dunbars' doubts. Meanwhile, the accused kidnapper, William Cantwell Walters, protested his arrest from jail, claiming the boy was the illegitimate son of his brother and his servant, Julie Anderson. The woman who was claimed to be Bobby's real mother paid a visit to the Dunbars to claim her alleged son, Bruce Anderson. After seeing the boy, she claimed he was, in fact, little Bruce and not Bobby. After a public trial, it was decided that the Dunbars would keep Bobby and Julia Anderson would return to Mississippi. Years later, Bobby Dunbar's granddaughter, Margaret Dunbar Cutright, received a scrapbook of articles about the mystery of her grandfather's identity. She allied with Linda Traver, a granddaughter of Julia Anderson, and the two began searching for the truth. After uncovering letters and court documents, Margaret Dunbar Cutright convinced her father to give a DNA sample to finally put an end to the mystery. The DNA sample was compared to Bobby's younger brother, Alonzo. The test proved that Bobby Dunbar was not the same boy who went missing in the swamp in 1912. He was the son of Julia Anderson all along. What happened to the real Bobby Dunbar is still a mystery, as is the question of whether or not Bobby Dunbar's parents knew the boy was not really theirs. Number 3. The skeleton of an unidentified woman was found stuffed into a tree in 1943. In 1943, 4 teenage boys found a woman's body stuffed into a tree in the Hagley Woods in Worcestershire, England. During World War II, food rations were tight, and the boys were out hunting in hopes of finding some game to supplement their family's diet. One climbed a witch tree elm, named for its spooky appearance, in the hopes of finding a bird's nest, but discovered something far more sinister instead. A woman's skeleton had been stuffed into the center of a tree. The boy quickly realized the remains were human by the pieces of hair still attached to the skull. 17-year-old Tom Willits alerted the authorities, the incident weighing heavily on him. Once the body was located, Professor James Webster served as the medical examiner, estimating that the woman was about 35 years old and about 5 feet tall. There were rags of clothing on her bones and fabric stuffed in her mouth, leading him to believe that she may have been suffocated. He also noticed that it was likely that she had at one time given birth and had been deceased for about 18 months when she was found. Stranger still, her hand was missing, and the bones were later discovered to be scattered around the tree. Webster concluded that the woman was murdered since the way her body was stored indicated it could not have been an accident or suicide. He also concluded that the body was put in the tree before rigor mortis caused the body to stiffen, indicating that the murder happened close to where the skeleton was found. In the investigation that followed, police contacted every local dentist hoping to find dental records that matched the body, along with digging through missing persons reports. The mysterious case went cold until 6 months later when graffiti began to appear near the tree. The first chalk writing read, "Who put Lubella down the witch elm?" This led investigators to name their Jane Doe Bella. More and more chalk graffiti appeared with similar sentiments, making it unclear whether this was clues or taunts. Anthropology professor Margaret Murray hypothesizes that Bella was the victim of an occult ritual. The way her hand was severed from her body appeared similar to a ritual called the Hand of Glory. Another theory was that Bella could have been a German spy captured and slain by UK soldiers. Bella's identity and the reason for her demise remains a mystery to this day. Number 4. Researchers still aren't sure what caused the mysterious fog of 536 CE. When asked about the worst time to be alive in human history, many would assume the years of the bubonic plague, which wiped out 1/3 of Europe's population, or the early 20th century when the Spanish flu killed 50 to 100 million people would top the list. But for many historians, the answer is actually 536 CE, the year of the mysterious fog. The fog of 536 CE caused complete darkness in Europe, the Middle East, and parts of Asia, day and night for 18 months. Byzantine historian Procopius wrote about the period saying, "For the sun gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon during the whole year." The summer temperatures of that year dropped to the lowest they had been in over 2 millennia. It even snowed that summer in China. This marked the beginning of a decade of freezing conditions that halted the growth of agriculture across multiple continents, causing mass starvation and death. To make matters worse, a bout of bubonic plague struck in 541, killing roughly 30 to 50% of the population left in the Roman Empire, contributing to its collapse. Why the lethal fog remained cloaked over continents for years remains a mystery. Medieval historian Michael McCormick and glaciologist Paul Mawiski have been leading a team of scientists dedicated to analyzing ancient ice in Switzerland to find the answer. Their biggest lead is a hypothesized volcanic eruption in Iceland that swept ash that blocked out the sun. Number 5. There's a giant magnet in space pulling our galaxy closer to the zone of avoidance, but no one knows how to explain it. Most of us are familiar with magnets, but understanding how they work is another hurdle. What's even harder to understand is the Great Attractor, the name used to describe the giant magnet in outer space on the other side of the Milky Way that scientists have no clue how to explain. As our solar system of orbiting planets drift through space, our galaxies and all the other galaxies slowly drift toward this mysterious spot 150 million light years away in an area called the Zone of Avoidance. The Great Attractor was discovered in the 1970s. Scientists found that it was filled with gas and dust like the rest of the Zone of Avoidance, blocking light and making it impossible to know what it even is. The answers may come as X-ray astronomy and technology continue to advance, but for now, it remains a mystery. Number 6. 6 people have lost their lives trying to find the, quote, money pit of Oak Island. Off the coast of Nova Scotia lies the mysterious Oak Island, where legends claim a pirate's treasure is buried. Wild theories surround what the treasure may contain, from Shakespeare's original manuscripts to Marie Antoinette's missing jewels to a mountain of Spanish gold. Even the U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt kept tabs on Oak Island. The hunt began in 1795 when fisherman Daniel McGinnis visited the island and noticed a mark on a tree indicating a rope pulley system likely used to lower something deep into the ground. When he and his fellow sailors started digging, they noticed that clay earth had pick marks in it. Not until 9 years later, when McGinnis returned with a larger crew and better tools to dig with, did he and his team discover a strange stone with a mysterious series of runes on it. When they continued digging, the pit began to fill with water, so they gave up and only had the stone to show for their efforts. Decades later, in 1865, a linguistics professor named James Lecce was able to translate the stone. It read, 40 feet below, 2 million pounds are buried. Over 2 centuries have passed since Daniel McGinnis found the first hints of the treasure on Oak Island, and since then, there have been countless attempts to unearth the, quote, money pit. Over the years, treasure hunters have not found the treasure, but they have found some interesting clues that keep their hopes alive, such as coins, shreds of parchment, huge slabs of rocks and metals, old oil lamps, and more. Some of the treasure hunters have met their demise on Oak Island. In 1861, hunters attempted to use a steam engine to pump out water from the hole they had dug. The engine exploded and fatally scalded one of the crew members. Since then, 5 more people have perished searching for the treasure on the island. The most recent tragedy occurred in 1965 when 4 were killed by chemical fumes in their attempt to find the hidden bounty. Legend says that 7 men must perish before the treasure can be uncovered. So far, 6 lives have been lost as a direct result of hunting the money pit of Oak Island. Number 7. Polynesians suddenly stopped voyaging for 2,000 years in an event known as the Long Pause. The group of islands in the Pacific Ocean near Australia and New Guinea were first colonized 3,500 years ago by Polynesians in what is known by many scholars to be the greatest voyage of all time. Fiji, Samoa, and Tonga were all part of this group of islands, and after that first big period of settlement, a mysterious event occurred that historians called the Long Pause. The Polynesians, known as great travelers of the ocean, remained dormant for the next 2,000 years. The strangest part? Afterwards, the Polynesians seemed to pick right up where they left off, launching massive voyages and colonizing every bit of land they could in the central and eastern Pacific Ocean, as if generations and millennia had not passed. So, what happened? Historians have many hypotheses, but no one knows for sure. One popular theory among academics is that unpredictable and unfavorable wind patterns kept the Polynesians from sailing. Others believe it took them 2,000 years to develop adequate boating and navigational technology to sail further east. Whatever the truth may be, the Long Pause became better known after it was featured as the central plot point in Disney's 2016 animated film Moana. Historians and indigenous Polynesians have mixed reviews on the film's historical and cultural accuracy, however. Number 8. The author of The Secret, A Treasure Hunt, passed before his riddles were solved. In 1982, Byron Priestis published The Secret, A Treasure Hunt, a book of 12 mind-bending riddles and paintings by fantasy artist John Jude Pelincier. I'm probably mispronounced that. Each riddle is paired with a painting to reveal a location in a North American city. Once the treasure hunter finds a location, they will find a bejeweled box buried 3.5 feet underground with a key inside. The key can be exchanged for a jewel, collectively worth about $10,000. In 1983, the first of the keys was found by 3 teenagers in Chicago, who paired the 5th image with the 12th verse. Alright, this is what the verse said, and I'm going to put it up on the screen so you guys can read it. Where M and B are set in stone, and to Congress R is known, L sits and left. Beyond his shoulder is the fair folks' treasure holder. The end of 10 by 13 is your clue. Fence and fixture central too. For finding jewel cask, seek the sounds of rumble, brush, and music, hush. Hidden in the image was a backwards outline of the state of Illinois, as well as several Chicago landmarks, like the Water Tower. An image of the bowman pointed to a statue near Grant Park, where the L sits, referred to the statue of Abraham Lincoln within the park. The treasure hunters used 2 intersecting lines of trees to locate a spot under a section of fence. The fence is also hidden within the image, where the treasure was hidden. One of the teens, Eric Gurkowski, wrote up an explanation of how they managed to solve the complex riddle. While many believe they have identified the cities each treasure is located in, only 3 of the 12 riddles have been solved. Treasure hunters all over the country continued the search, even though Byron Priestis passed away in 2005, taking the secret locations of the remaining gems to his grave. Well, there you have it. 8 eerie unsolved mysteries. Please leave your thoughts and comments below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.